Latitudes and longitudes. The spherical representation of the Earth is called the globe. The globe is a small model of the Earth which represents continents, oceans, countries, etc. It is very easy to locate a place on a flat surface with reference to another place, but it is difficult to locate a place on a globe because of its spherical shape. Thus, to find the location or direction of a place, we need certain points of reference and lines. The point in reference to which the location of another place is given is known as reference point. The Earth has two known points, the North Pole and the South Pole. Latitude. Lines of latitude run horizontally. Latitude is measured in degree. The equator is 0 degrees latitude. Lines of latitude locate places north or south of the equator. The North Pole is 90 north latitude and the South Pole is 90 degrees south latitude. Parallels of latitude. Lines of latitude run around the globe. They are parallel to each other. The longest latitude line is the equator, that is 0 degree. Lines get shorter and shorter as they get closer to the poles. Equator is an imaginary line that divides the Earth into two equal halves, known as hemisphere. The part of the globe which lies to the north of the equator is called the northern hemisphere, while the part which lies to the south is called southern hemisphere. Latitude of a place. The latitude of a place is its angular distance north or south of the equator. It gives the position or location of a place from the equator. The latitude of a place is measured in degrees. Each degree is divided into 60 equal parts called minutes. A minute is further divided into 60 equal parts called seconds. Places located north of the equator have north latitudes. Similarly, places to the south of the equator have south latitudes. The angular distance of either pole from the equator is 1/4 of the circle or 90 degrees. Thus, the latitude of the North Pole is 90 degrees north and the latitude of a South Pole is 90 degrees south. Size of the parallels. The parallels are circles of varying lengths. The length of the parallels decreases gradually from the equator to the poles. The equator is the longest parallel. 60-degree parallel is half the length of the equator. The poles are just points. Important parallels. The equator acts as a very important reference line. There are other parallels which are important because they help to divide the Earth into different zones. The Tropic of Cancer is the parallel 23.5 degrees north of the equator. It means that the latitude of all places on this parallel is 23.5 degrees north. The Tropic of Capricorn lies to the south of the equator at an angular distance of 23.5 degrees south from it. The Arctic Circle is the parallel which lies at the angular distance of 66.5 degrees north of the equator. The Antarctic Circle lies to the south of the equator at an angular distance of 66.5 degrees from it. Latitudes and heat zones. The parallels that you have just learnt about divide the earth into various heat zones. The different zones have different types of climate and vegetation. Let's first study about torrid zone. This zone lies between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. The word torrid means hot. This zone is the hottest zone of the earth as it receives relatively direct rays of the sun throughout the year. It is also known as the tropical zone. About half of the India lies in this zone. Next is the temperate zones. Between the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle in the north and the Tropic of Capricorn and the Antarctic Circle in the south are two zones of moderate temperature called the temperate zones. Temperate means moderate. The sun never shines on these areas vertically. In fact, the angle of the sun's rays keeps decreasing as one moves from the tropics to the poles. Since the rays of the sun are always slanted, these areas receive much less heat than the torrid zone. Third one is the frigid zone. Beyond the Arctic Circle in the north and Antarctic Circle in the south, the sun never rises much above the horizon. So, these two zones get the least amount of heat. They are the coldest regions of the earth. These two zones are called the frigid zones. Now, let's study about longitudes. Lines of longitudes run vertically. They are called meridians. The prime meridian is found in Greenwich, England. The prime meridian is 0 degree longitude. Lines of longitude locate places east or west of the prime meridian. There are 180 degrees of east longitude and 180 degrees of west longitude. Prime meridian. The prime meridian is an imaginary line that runs from the North Pole to the South Pole. It is 0 degree longitude. The prime meridian divides the earth into eastern and western hemisphere. Now let's understand the difference between equator and prime meridian. Equator is the line circling the earth midway between the north and south, whereas prime meridian is a line that runs through Greenwich, England. Equator is at 0 degree latitude, while prime meridian is at 0 degree longitude. Equator divides the earth into southern and northern hemisphere. Prime meridian divides the earth into eastern and western hemisphere. Longitude of a place. The longitude of a place is its angular distance east or west of the prime meridian. It is measured along the parallel which passes through the place. Longitude are also measured in degrees, minutes and seconds. A place has an east or a west longitude depending upon whether it is to the east or west of the prime meridian. All places with the same longitude fall on a line of longitude or a meridian of longitude. As meridians runs from the North Pole to the South Pole, which means that they all meet at the poles. Finding a place. The parallels and meridians form a mesh or a grid. They help us locate a place on a map or a globe. The point of intersection of the parallels and the meridian on the map will be the position of the place. The international date line. There are 180 lines of longitude on each side of the prime meridian. But on the opposite side, the prime meridian is not 0 degree but 180 degree. It is called the international date line. Time zones. Time can be measured on the basis of the movement of heavenly bodies like the sun, the moon, etc. The sun rises and sets every day. Therefore, it is the best standard for measuring the time of a place. Time zones are broad strips that measured 15 degrees wide. Time zones differ from their neighboring time zones by 1 hour. The continental US has 4 time zones: Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. In the spring, we shift the clock 1 hour ahead. This is called daylight saving time. In the fall, we shift the clock 1 hour back. Local time. Local time is what we use every day and regulates our lives. Examples of local time are meal time, sleep time, work time, and school time. Universal time. Universal time is what we use when we need a time that is agreed upon marking time worldwide. For example, when universal time was used when a supernova in 1987 was first seen, astronauts and astronomers use universal time. Greenwich Mean Time. Greenwich Mean Time is the time that is registered at Greenwich, England. Greenwich Mean Time is another name for universal time. The international date line was established following the 180th meridian. Whenever we cross it, the date advances 1 day or goes back 1 day if you are going east. Thank you for watching the video.